Okay, this is from a new fairy tale called Noni's Nosegay. "Ring the bells, sound the trumpets," said King Bungle upon the announcement by his chief cauldron pot in waiting of his daughter's birth. "I'll be stewed like a fat goose if that isn't the most wondrous news I've ever heard." Of course, the State Secretary of the Archives immediately wrote down the king's comments. In fact, everything the king said was put into the kingdom's archives, so future generations could marvel at how King Bungle handled the affairs of Ardania. As the bells rang out from the palace towers, all the towns in the kingdom joined the celebration. Soon the only sounds that could be heard were those coming from hundreds of bell towers in Ardania. Not only was everyone delighted at the birth of the princess, they also knew there would be countless jobs created by this great occasion. Bakers dreamed of being named maker of the princess's tasty tidbits. Hairstylists anxiously awaited the naming of hairdresser-in-chief to her bald highness. Stroller manufacturers imagined an entire line of perambulators custom-made for all the future royal children. On and on the dreams and fantasies of King Bungle's subjects echoed through the night. In the palace itself, of course, many royal appointments had to be made. Chief pacifier-in-waiting, royal diaper changer, of course there had to be 2 of those, first rubber of gums, and many cooing and humming ladies-in-waiting. The list continued to grow as everyone in the palace created a job they, and only they, could perform perfectly. Eventually, King Bungle, completely overwhelmed by all the needs of such a tiny creature, named Chief Coordinator of Princesses' Requirements to fill the hundreds of now vitally necessary positions. "I am going to see Queen Bernice. We have to set a date for the christening," said King Bungle. A royal christening was a momentous occasion. In fact, only the very old people in Ardania could even remember the last one. "Excuse me, your most exalted majesty, but today is the 81st of Morphe, which I'm sure your infallible memory has not forgotten," said the chief rememberer of all things Ardanian. You see, Ardania had 4 months: Sproutsy, Bloomsy, Morphe, and Frosty. These were like our seasons of spring, summer, fall, and winter. Each month had 91 days, except Frosty, which had 92 and a quarter. That way Ardania didn't have to deal with that pesky leap year problem. Of course, no one ever figured out what to do with a person born on that quarter day, but that's not part of our story, is it? Anyway, it seems the 81st of Morphe was a very important day in Ardania. It was a good thing the chief rememberer was around to keep track of it and all the other important events. His position was created many years ago by King Skadi III. It couldn't really be called a job because no one who worked in Ardania got paid. The idea behind this arrangement was that if someone was paid to work, then they might only do their duties for their own gain, and not because it was the right thing to do. Therefore, the only people who got paid were those who did nothing, a disgraceful state of being. The position of chief rememberer had to be created after King Skadi III was wounded in battle. The giant who lived in a nearby mountain wanted to take control of Ardania. And in the contest between the 2 men, the giant cut off the top of King Skadi's head, the part that held his memory. So even though King Skadi won the battle, he didn't remember anything. Hence, the position of chief rememberer was established. Later, monarchs didn't really need a chief rememberer, but it was a lot easier to make someone else responsible for recalling all the important duties and events of the kingdom. The office of chief rememberer was really a pretty simple one, until one person forgot to remind the king to distribute all the food and supplies from the royal warehouses to the people. As a result, the people almost starved to death, revolted against the king, and tried to behead him. However, he reminded them that it wasn't his fault. The chief rememberer forgot to tell him to do it. The people saw how foolish they'd been, restored the king to his throne, and beheaded the chief rememberer instead. That made everyone, except the chief rememberer, very happy. To be continued.